everyone, it's Cindy. Welcome back to Studioloo. So I'm here today with another episode of mask making with me and the person that I'm randomly watching on my my little YouTube screen while I'm working here. And today I was watching Rachel from Roxy's Creations, I believe day 93 of her 100-day project, where she's making little watercolor mark making samples to use in collage. So that's what I want to do today, and I think I want to do it along the lines of like the colors that would go into the fairy journals that I'm working on right now. So that being said, the watercolors I'm using today are Fine Tech watercolors and Beam Paints watercolors. So Fine Tech have a really nice palette of mostly metallic and some color shifting watercolor pigments, and then Beam Paints are a Canadian Indigenous company that have a very beautiful large range of colors. These are their paint stones. I was gifted this beautiful palette in this enamel tray for Mother's Day. So yeah, I'm really stoked about both of those brands, actually, specifically the Beam Paints one, because it's so like, it's just all good. It's environmentally good. They use, really good materials. They're cautious about the environment. Everything gets packaged beautifully in, a cotton printed sack, and these get wrapped in beeswax, that they print themselves. This is beeswax cotton that's been dipped in beeswax, so it's like a wax wrap. And so it always smells lovely, and it's always nicely wrapped up. So I've pre-sprayed these, and the paper I want to use today to do these samples, I've got some old French book page from like an 1800s book that's really, really thin. I want to see what that will be like. I've got some watercolor paper, and then don't freak out, but I'm going to use a page of this 1861 court docket ledger. It's really beautiful. If you're interested in this paper, I have scanned some of it and put up like a digital in my Etsy shop. It's called AP Gold's Docket. It's from 1861. So don't cry when I tear this up, please. It's beautiful paper, and I think it's going to watercolor really nicely. And also, this is what I saw that I really liked in Rachel's video as well, is that she used a ledger paper. I think, yeah, she was using old documents as well. So, okay, we need to tear this up, and to do that I need a ruler, which is over here. I have way too much stuff on my desk right now. It is like a little bit out of control. So, what I think I want to do is a strip like this. Okay. And this one, maybe a little wider. And we'll do it again in half. Yeah, so today is kind of a quiet day around our house. We are staying home because my in-laws should be arriving here in a couple of hours. I wanted to go, there's a nearby town that had like a plant book yard sale today, although I don't know if it got canceled because we had a wild storm, at least here in my area. It lasted only for about 15 minutes, but there was a tornado warning and the winds were absolutely crazy. Of course, they called the storm for this morning, and so my husband was like, hey, do you want me to go out and get sandwiches for lunch, because we just kind of don't feel like cooking lunch this afternoon. So I was like, yeah, sure. So then like almost as soon as he like gets to the place and leaves, the storm begins, and then it's like madness on the road. But I called him and everything was okay. It was just moving very slowly, but I know my in-laws just reached the border, so they'll be here relatively soon, and I don't know if the storm got to them or not. I don't think it's traveling that direction. I think it's now headed towards Quebec. So, okay. A couple of those larger. And then we'll do some little squares. Okay. So everything's cut out. Let's do a selection of everything maybe to see how the color will work on each of these, and I'll just maybe lay them out in different places over here. I'm going to need a little space so that I can put the wet ones up there afterward. So I think what I want to do is probably sort of palettes of color. They won't all be this like the same, like an ombre or anything. I think I mostly just want to work with nice colors that sort of go together. So let's start with maybe some of this Fine Tech in this lovely pink. And let's see how this looks on the old book page. Really nice, actually. A little bit more water there. That's really nice. And then I'm going to go to the next one in the range. I find that the Fine Tech, it likes a lot of water. And we'll go into the purple. I just sprayed these, but it doesn't take long when the air is dry, because the air is on in the house, for them to just get dry again. There we go. There's one little fun one. I'll just clean up the brush here. Then let's use some beam paint next. Let's go with some yellow maybe. And we'll work on the watercolor paper. And we'll go into a green. Yeah, but it was funny, I looked outside just as the storm was getting started, and my neighbors had been sitting on their front porch, and they have a bunch of little girls, of teenage girls and little girls that live there, and the storm started and they were screaming their heads off. It was so funny. They ran inside. It was super funny. Very cute kids. Let's try maybe some circles now. It's a beautiful metallic. There's so many nice watercolor paint options out there nowadays. It's a little daunting because I am one of those people who's ooh, shiny, must buy now. But yeah, I also need to realize that I don't need to own every single thing because I'll never have time to use them. I think I'm going to do little ones down here, and then I'm going to cut that in half because it's just an odd, a bit of an odd shape. But then the other thing is you also have to be a little careful with watercolor and where you source it from. I definitely do not recommend that you buy watercolor from somewhere like AliExpress or something where you don't know where things are sourced, because of course, you're working with micas and metallics and stuff, right? And that can be a little bit daunting because you're probably not going to be getting an MSDS with your paint, and I always feel a little bit this is why I like beam paint so much, because it's ethically sourced. It's plant-based, it's just good paint that's safe to use. And also it just really, really works beautifully. Let's see if we can get some silver on the old book page. This one is a dancing kind of sparkle. I don't know if you can see from this far away, but hold on, let me bring it up to the camera. But you see the little sparkles just kind of moving around there. I always call them dancing sparkles because that's what they look like to me, and I like to mix a little of other colors in with them. Yeah, since I started using beam paint, I'm just really in love with it. And they actually right now, I think they're having a sale. These paint stones are, I think, buy one get one, because they're financing some travel, like a trip to somewhere, I think, to exhibit their paint. So if you're interested, now is a really good time to go over there while they have a BOGO sale. And I can definitely attest to the wonderfulness of the paint and the company. What colors now? Maybe pink. We'll get back into some pink. And we'll work on ledger again. So I think I'll just maybe do a few more of these in this video, but then I will make the ephemera with these for the fairy journals in my next fairy video. I've been working away on those videos, or those journals. I've got quite a bit more work done since the last update, but they take a while. I'm still working on the covers. The puzzle covers I think are finished now, pending any last minute, you know, changing of my mind. Now I just need to work on the sort of floral covers. I got them last night. I got them to like, I got all the sparkly stuff that I wanted to do done, and I got the layers of paint done. So now they just need to be kind of I need to put the fronts on, and I need to seal them. So yeah, we will have some progress next video, hopefully. Or we'll make ephemera, because I'm really feeling very much like I want to make ephemera, and I did a bunch of fussy cutting of fairy stuff to get started on that. I love this spring green. It's just beautiful. Took a really nice walk yesterday. I have to say, I was feeling very thankful to have the plants back. I saw so many beautiful flowers, and we saw lots of bumblebees, and we heard woodpeckers, and there were chipmunks about, and it was just pretty very Snow Whitey altogether. Very much a Snow White kind of summer day. It was warm and beautiful. Let's do all ledger now. And we'll start with maybe the gold range. Sorry if I'm a little off camera while I'm getting some of the paint. It can't be helped. It's a little bit wide of an angle. Yeah, we took such a nice walk, and then we my daughter was picking some lilacs, and I really want to put a lilac bush in my front of my house. I think I'm gonna figure that out this year, maybe. It's a weird weekend. I'm not sure like what I'm gonna do. If I'm gonna do much of anything, I don't know. I'll probably just do some nature stuff. It feels very weird not to be gardening. I have to get started in my garden. I haven't even gotten started this year, which is totally uncharacteristic for me. I'm usually like, I have usually a ton of seedlings ready to go, ready to be planted. This year, I said to myself last year, you're not going to have time for this next year because you have other things that you want to accomplish. So I didn't get the greenhouses all loaded with seedlings and all that. So I really want to get to the plant store, because this year, of course, not having seedlings, I have to get, you know, plants. I am going to start some seeds this weekend, but I won't have the stress of like having to manage them indoors, which is what I didn't want to have to do, because like it's really time consuming to manage seedlings indoors, the lighting, the moisture levels, all that. And that's what I didn't want to be taxed with this year. I just didn't have the energy. I have too many responsibilities right now to like have to maintain that kind of plant ownership. But I do want to get some things sprouting, and I need to get going on that because the Canadian growing season is quite short when you consider other places and how long they get to grow. usually have cucumbers ready and tomatoes and squash, but that's all right. Tomatoes are such a quick to germinate kind of thing anyways, so I'm not too concerned. And I have done this many years where I didn't have time to like invest in planning everything, so it'll work out in the end. I think I'm just feeling the pressure of it with the rising cost of groceries and like food being a little insecure right now. That's the whole reason that I got into gardening, was food insecurity, like not wanting to be food insecure. So I wanted to have a lot of knowledge about plants and growing food, which I do thankfully, but next is having the time to do it. These are starting to pile up, which is good because they're fun. Maybe some of this nice salmon orangey color. Then we took the kids out for ice cream yesterday, and that was fun. They enjoyed that after the long walk. Okay, let's do this last piece of ledger. Love this coppery bronzy shade. Oh, it's so beautiful. It's going to create kind of like a transition. This looks dry. Just pop it there. Okay, now let's do some more watercolor paper. Hear my husband upstairs puttering around. He's doing that thing where you're waiting for someone to arrive and you don't know what to do with yourself. I'd be doing the same thing. That's why I came to the studio and decided to just make a video and do some work. Because I'm very similar to him in that regard. We just kind of don't know what to do with ourselves when we're waiting. I need to pick a new book to start reading. I'm trying to get back to like doing more reading. It's been a really hard thing for me to keep up like I've always been a very avid reader. Like I read a lot of books. Usually I have like a challenge for myself that I do on Goodreads, and I read a ton, but ever since having kids, that's changed a lot. The majority of the reading, I still do a lot of reading, but it's mainly children's literature, which is fine, but I'm not like I'm not accomplishing a lot with my own reading. But that's okay. I'll get caught up one of these days. If I don't cut up all my books for journals. We'll see how that goes. Although it was odd this week not having a Thrifty Thursday or a Friday book haul. I felt a little bit like, what's going on? Although it's honestly a good thing. I don't need anything. That's why I'm not like sad I didn't go to the big yard sale today. I mean, I was certainly intrigued, like, ooh, I want to see what kind of, because they specifically called out books, and I was like, ooh, But that's okay. You don't need all of it. I'm trying to figure out what kind of week I'm going to have today. Or today. I'm going to have a whole week today. No, this week. I'm on the fence about, like, I have this idea that I want to speak to my boss about. Like, it's sort of an objective, like a plan I have for a project I want to do in my company to kind of, I don't know, like, build, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, it's sort of like a cross, like, learning kind of opportunity that I want to, like, give some opportunities to some people, basically, to expand their knowledge and have, like, a mentorship kind of situation going on and an innovation kind of thing going on, without giving too much detail. But I'm on the fence about whether I want to pitch it or not, because I know he'll love the idea. I know he'll be really excited and he'll tell me, like, you know, I'd be perfect for it kind of thing. But I'm also like, I don't know if right now is the time that I want to do something like that. I don't know if I have the time to commit to people. And I sometimes overcommit, and I don't want to do that. Like, I never let myself, you know, fail at what I'm doing, but I do end up, you know, working too many late nights. Oh, I love that middle color. Look at the gold in that red. Can you see that? Isn't that beautiful? Oh, beam paints. I'm just going to do a whole kind of color range on this one. But yeah, I had the weirdest, so I have like a Ring doorbell at our front door. But then yesterday we were driving up to the house and I witnessed the most ridiculous thing. This is bothering me. This is not going to be as long-winded as my IKEA rant, but yeah, it super bothered me. This woman was walking her dog past my house as we were pulling up, and she totally allowed her dog to poop right on my front lawn, right in front of my little free library that literally people use my library pretty consistently. And like, whoever were to step up there, they would absolutely just immediately step in her dog's poop because of where it was. And I was just so dumbfounded about it. Like, I mean, and I'm pretty sure she knows that we saw her because we were literally waiting for her to keep walking after the incident. Like, we didn't see it immediately, but I had a hunch that that's what had happened. And like, she lives down the road from me, and I'm certainly going to see her again. And I was just like, whose child are you? Oh my God. She's not a child. She's a grown woman. So yeah, pretty sure when I see her, which I know I will, I'm going to mention it. I'm just going to say, like, you know, look, I have a dog. I had 4 dogs not very long ago, and I understand what it is to accidentally forget your dog poop bags or whatever. But when you see your dog stop with the intention to do his business, you don't let him do it in front of a place where children go to collect books. And you know this, you live here, you see all the time how this library gets used. Like, have some self-respect, you know? Oh, I was so perturbed. I got into the car and I definitely considered, because she was only like just slightly down the road when I was getting out of the car, and I definitely considered like wandering over to her and saying, hey, you want to double back and pick this up? But I didn't. But I wanted to. I don't know what it is these days with people, just they want to test your patience in ways that I am not prepared to deal with. Sometimes, I swear. I don't know how I keep my tongue in my mouth some days. But I'm not a huge lover of conflict. Really not. But I don't know. I think my parents, when I was a kid, if I had done that kind of thing, like, my parents would have lost it. I grew up in the days of, like, who do you think you're talking to? You know, like, my parents would have been, like, so, you know, and I believe in gentle parenting, and that's what I do, and it's my kind of whole system of parenting in this house is a gentle parenting and attachment parenting, if you will. But I still think if that was my child, I'd be like, I mean, I guess it speaks to something that I'm referring to children when I'm talking about her behavior, but honestly, I don't even think kids are that crass. I think most kids would see your car and be like, oh crap, let's move the dog, let's move on. But yeah, it was very blatant and weird. My little dramas in my life, I have to share them with you. It's how I continue to go through the world and not get super mad. But mostly I just don't have the energy to get super mad these days, to be completely honest. Although this cold is going away, my husband picked it up for like a day and then he was fine. And I was like, dang you and your strong immunity. Because like nothing ever gets him. And I'm happy for that. I should make it sound like a bad thing. It's not. I would mind a little of that myself. But yeah, not in my life. It's like something can go through our house and be like a 24-hour bug, and it's definitely like, you get it for 72 hours because, I don't know, it's just the way things go for me. Probably because I'm complaining about people and their dogs. Alright. Oh, these colors are so beautiful. Alright, I'm getting quite a little palette here. Or a bunch of little palettes. It's nice. I'm trying to think of like what else have I been watching or doing. What else have I been watching? Not too much. I was a long time listener of a podcast called Reply All, and I just heard that it's going to probably come to an end because the two main it's a Gimlet podcast. It used to be really good, but then there was some controversy because one of the main hosts, unfortunately, he ended up being revealed to be, unfortunately, like a very discriminatory person in his workplace, and so he got removed from the show. And it's too bad, right? It's one of those things where someone can be a lot of things at once. Like, he was a really funny person with an infectious laugh, and like I think he was very entertaining, but unfortunately he was not being very nice to his coworkers. So you know, people can be a lot of things at once. But I am sad that the show itself is done because it was a really good show, and there's another guy on it named Alex Goldblum, and I love him. He's so funny, and I really hope he goes on to do something else that's good, because I'm very interested in continuing to hear from him. But I've kind of even fallen behind on my podcasts. Or I'll like, the only time I listen to them is when I'm like editing video or something, when I'm at the computer or doing some other kind of thing. And then I always end up listening to something that like is not really, like, I probably don't want to talk about while I'm here. Like I listened to a podcast called TTFN, Terrible Thanks for Asking. And it's actually a really good podcast if you don't mind a little bit of like, well, I won't say dark humor, but kind of dark humor, but like not really dark humor. Kind of, I would say, what is the after effect of, you know, losing your husband from brain cancer years later, right? You develop a different way of talking about it. But anyways, it's hosted by Nora McInerney, who is a brilliant and, I mean, just a woman who found herself after a very painful situation of losing her husband as a young mother. And, you know, that's a really hard thing, but she turned it into kind of a podcast, and something that helped, continues to help a lot of people who are grieving for different reasons. So if you've never heard of that podcast, I recommend checking it out and going back in the episodes, because what it does is it talks about, like, you know, different people who she interviews, like, and they're grieving kind of different things, and, you know, they talk about like what helped them. And yeah, I really enjoy Nora, and I really enjoy like how she talks to people, and it's honestly just kind of like a therapy session to listen to a bit. You know, not that I can, you know, share that kind of grief with her. I've never lost a spouse or anything, but I think that grief is common, right, to the human experience, so we all can relate. And she has a lot of really beautiful perspectives that came kind of hard earned, but I think she's really worth like hearing. Squash here. Some of the beam paints are gouache. I forgot to mention that. They have watercolor and gouache. So the more solid colors are typically, well, I would say typically the gouache, but you actually can get a lot of solid color out of their watercolor as well. Oh, that's a nice mix. Yum. I just want to keep painting with this one. What a pretty range. Yay. Okay. We've got 2 more to go. I don't want to be done. I've been really enjoying this. It's so fun. I love when you leave a bit of color on the brush and go into a different color. Just brings really beautiful color. Okay, actually I need a little more paint here. Can I spread that a little further? I can. Okay, whoops. No. And the last one. Oh, what are we gonna do? Let's do pink. Pinky, pinky, pink. Let's do circles. I've been doing mostly swatches, like painterly paintbrush swatches. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look here. Let me see if I can show you. What is the camera showing you? This. Okay, can I show you a little further back? Yeah, okay, so you can kind of see more back here of the different things that I have here. So what we're going to do with these, I have fussy cut out a lot of fairy stuff, and these are going to go into collage. So like I'm going to use them on my ephemera, you know, tuck something, you know, in front of them, behind them, whatever. So they're going to be like collage fodder. So that is what I wanted to do for this video. As I mentioned, this was from Roxy's Creations. Rachel did day 93, her watercolor mark making video. That just inspired me. I have a few different ideas for the kinds of ephemera that I want to make for these journals, and this one fits in really beautifully. So yeah, we have lots. And you know what I can show you, hold on. This is kind of a sneak peek of what's to come in the next fairy video. So I did a bunch of these ahead of time because I was just super in love. I'll show you. So look how pretty they are. And like, look how this is dry now, right? And look how pretty it is on the ledger. I say if you can find vintage ledger, like the authentic paper, and you can use it, do it. Because even authentic, like old documents, even try some old book pages and do this, because you'll find old paper, it just acts differently. This was some handmade paper that I used that was also really interesting to use. It actually just really sucked up a lot of paint though, so I had to use a lot of water on that. This one I love. It's very coppery and patina-ish. But yeah, these are the ones that I did this morning as I was kind of deciding if I wanted to do this video. And so yeah, we have lots and lots of fun fodder for these fairy journals. And I've also got my fussy cuts in this basket here that I'm going to be using some of my fussy cuts here. And so that will be the next fairy video. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. You can find all my social media information down below in the description box. And don't forget to check out Rachel at Roxy's Creations and her video on this, day 93 of her 100-day project. And until next time, have a great day. Bye.